Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of Dial M for Martin. I am your host, Josh Olson. With me today, special guests are Kylan Savage. Hey, Kylan.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. And Jerry Morrison. Hey, Jerry, what's up?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Glad to be here.
Look at this. This is this is our first episode. It's kind of like a little spin-off series we're doing. You know, everyone's been talking about. We did our first Starflyer episode on Church Jams Now where we covered Silver. And we've had a lot of people being like, hey, let's talk about Starflyer. Let's talk about Starflyer. And you know what? Maybe we'll do it every now and then and have like a little spin-off show that I thought would be fun to call Dial M for Martin, obviously based off of his album Dial M. So this show should hopefully be rife with Starflyer references for all
and then
I love it.
I'm here.
And then Kylan's here. Yeah. We have a resident expert, Jerry Morrison, to talk about the band, and also Kylan.
Yeah, I fully, so I say this on, you know, there's another show that I've been co-hosting lately, Decent Christian Music Talk with Eric McClanahan. And I constantly open it by saying, I have no idea why I'm here. And I will echo that sentiment here. I have no idea why I was asked to be on this show, Josh.
I asked you to get me a Zoom link, and when we logged on, you were here. And I didn't know how to tell you, like, I just needed a Zoom link, not you here.
Oh, okay. It was just a huge misunderstanding.
Yeah, for sure.
You're a guest by accident, by attrition.
No, I do like the idea of having someone like me who is a more seasoned Starflyer fan. There are definitely more people out there, and Jerry, who's I'm excited to hear more about his Starflyer fandom as well. But I think Kylan, you bring a fun angle to the podcast of not really being super well versed in Starflyers, so you can kind of just give us like some like first impressions.
Just a vibe guy.
I know.
Just the resident
vibe guy. It's gonna be fun.
You need a hype man.
That's what I'm here for.
You're the hype man. That's great.
Yeah.
Vibe guy.
I'm here for
hype
it.
Man.
Yep. So I think that about covers it. I love talking. Let's talk more about a show that we're talking on, you know. I think that's really fun. I think
fun.
what would be better than that
radio.
is to hear from our guests. Like if you listen to Church Jams Now, you know plenty about me and Kylan. But I want to talk to Jerry. I want to hear about you, Jerry. I want to hear a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into some Starflyer stuff.
Yeah.
But I want to hear about you, how you grew up, and then I think you have an interesting history with Christian music and just music in general that I would love to hear about.
Yeah, Jerry, what's your deal?
What's my
Who
deal?
are you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
What's the deal with Jerry? So
What's the deal
my
with
name's
Jerry?
Yeah, right. This is a little inside baseball there. My name's Jerry. Jerry Morrison. I'm from Huntington, West Virginia. Born and raised. I lived there until I was about 19 years old. Pretty, I almost said a nondescript childhood, but not really. Growing up in West Virginia, I don't think can be described as nondescript. It's just, you know, everything that entails. But about 19, I moved to Nashville. About age 19, I moved to Nashville to join a band. That band was that was about August of '99. I moved to Nashville to join the band Bleach as their bass player. I had a friend of mine from Huntington who had been playing bass with them for a little while, a guy named Russ Fox. The original guitar player, Brad Ford, for Bleach, he was leaving the band, and so Russ hit me up. Russ was like my big brother. He's always like looking out for me. We were trying to be in a band together for years, and he was like, "Yo, like, how would you feel about if I like maybe I'll move over to guitar and Bleach, and you come and play bass?" And I was like, that would be amazing. So some stars aligned. I had some stuff going on. That was during the summer, but had some stuff going on. Once that was done, I hopped in a van and moved to Nashville. It was funny because I had spent the summer in Europe doing I was real involved with Campus Crusade for Christ in college, and so I'd done this summer project in Europe, and I literally got back on a Monday, and by that end of that week, I was in a van coming to Nashville, and I was under the impression I was going to come down and try out for Bleach. And on the way down, Russ was like, "Oh yeah, we got a show this weekend."
No, you're in Bleach.
You're in.
Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh," he's like, "You can play it if you want." I'm like, "Oh, cool." So I literally learned 17 songs, I think, in a span of a week. and played my first show and just kept playing shows. So I was in the band from 99, right before the self-titled album came out. Like they had just recorded the self-titled album, and then I was in the band from then until the end. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, very
so
cool.
How did your jet lag feel that week? Like that just seems like
was
the
all a
most
dream, yeah.
intense week, because it was just East Coast to Central, right?
Right.
From West
yeah,
Virginia.
so that's not too bad from West Virginia to Nashville. But like the whole thing was just wild because like I said, I was playing in another band, like a local band at home, and like so I flew home. We played a show, like our very last show, like the local band, and then it was like the next day I got in a van. It was just all like a whirlwind. But for me, it was like I was 19, and that was all I ever wanted to do was be in a band.
Right.
And I remember like we immediately just went on the road. We did a tour that fall with Joy Electric and Miss Angie, and I was just like blown away because I was a Tooth and Nail kid, which we'll get into. So like I'm like, Joy Electric's going to be on this tour. That's so amazing.
Yeah,
like,
that's rad.
But yeah, like it was just all I ever wanted to do. And I'm like, you're going to give me money? Like you're going to give me money every month to do this. Like I do this for free.
Yeah.
But cool. Yeah. I'll take your money. That's great. That kind of sums it up. That's a nutshell.
That's awesome. Well, tell me a little bit more about being a Tooth and Nail kid. I want to hear about growing up with the music that you listen to.
Yeah, so it's funny, like, it's kind of how I got into Starflyer was like, so in my hometown, I don't know if you guys remember the band 7 Day Jesus, from like the mid to late 90s. So they were a local band where I grew up. And, their original bass player was like I started going to shows, like they would play shows around my hometown, and me and my friends started going because it was like, oh, hey, there's this like, we'd hear about it in youth group, like there's this really cool band that sounds like Alice in Chains. And so like, because they sounded like Alice in Chains early on. And we'd go and watch them, and it was really cool. And I got to know the bass player, the original bass player at the time. He ended up being my neighbor. And so we would hang out, and I'd hang out with him and the guitar player, Chris Beatty, a lot. And they would tell me about all this cool music, because at that point, like, this was about late 94, early 95. The only thing I knew of Christian music was hearing like Newsboys or Audio Adrenaline at youth group, and like that wasn't really my cup of tea because I was like a grunge kid, and Nirvana. Yeah, like grew up in the 90s. Nirvana, Pearl Jam. The whole like Stone Temple Pilots. That was my like scene. So
nice.
So my buddy Wes was like, he made me a bunch of tapes. This would have been probably, I'd say early 95. Because I remember the Prayer Chain Mercury had just come out.
Okay.
And so he made me a tape of Mercury, Sixpence None the Richer, Poor Old Lou Sin, and Starflyer 59 Silver. Those were like he's like, check out these bands, like this is going to be right up your alley. And so like from that I kind of found, got into Tooth and Nail Records, and I was a volunteer DJ at our college station. It was on Sundays, and we played Christian music, and it was like we had a run sheet of what we were supposed to play, and I was like, yeah, fuck this, I'm playing all Tooth and Nail.
What? Yeah. What was on it at that? Was it like Gaither vocal band, or like what?
No,
Michael W. Smith.
So to be fair, no. So it was like Christian rock. So like, but it was
Petra.
The guy that. Yeah, right. Yeah, it was like there was one guy that did like a metal show at night, and it was all like Tourniquet and
Petra, Striper,
nice. but even like in some of the heavier stuff, like that wasn't my scene. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like during the day, it was like your typical like kind of mainstream, I guess mainstream in quotes, Christian rock, like. But like I didn't care about any of that, like PFR, Audio A, Newsboys, and then it would be some like MXPX and some of the Tooth and Nail bands. Plank Eye was a big one for me, but I was just like, I'm going to do what I want. There's nobody here to tell me no. But the guy that was like, he was like the Sunday program director. He would like write out these like things we were supposed to play, because he had to do reporting and all this stuff. We were the worst. Like I was the worst. Like I was just like, no, I'm not doing any of that. And so it was just all like I would go through and just grab every Tooth and Nail release I would find and just like Wish for Eden, Plank Eye. I mean, all of it. Like I loved it. Like I was all like that was the type of stuff I was into. So
nice. So that's
what got me into Starflyer. That was
so you got 95. In with Silver pretty early on, and then just kept with them every release since.
Pretty much, yeah. Like my friend Wes, when he gave me that tape, and I heard Blue Collar Love for the first time, it was like, whoa, like I have never heard anything like that, right? Like, a lot of people, would compare like because of the feedback and the heavy guitars, are like, oh, it's kind of like Smashing Pumpkins, and I'm like, this is nothing like Smashing Pumpkins. Like this is way more like groove. Like to me, the Smashing Pumpkins were like all the Rush kids who got into skateboarding in high school. That's who listened to the Pumpkins because like they were like it was like Prague, right? Like this isn't Starflyer's not that. Like I don't know, it just blew me away.
So much more vibey.
Yeah, so vibey and just like but so heavy. Like those like that opening riff is just so iconic.
Yeah,
and like I was hooked. And so like that was like from that point on like. Everything Starflyer put out, like I pretty much like I made a note as I was like thinking through things today, and it was like I cannot think of another band whom I have either so in pre-streaming I bought everything that he released or like now I stream everything. Like I don't love everything, but I've listened to everything. Like I give everything a shot, and like even the stuff that I don't love, it's like it's good.
I think it's important to have those bands that like no matter what, like release day, you're gonna listen to it.
Yeah,
you know, like
you're hoping,
like
I hope this lands.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I am curious then too, because there have been a few bands for me too where that's still the case, and even if I haven't loved a release on release day. I'm curious for you with Starflyer, were there any of those that like grew on you over time?
Yeah.
Because sometimes those end up being like
your favorites.
Like the absolute favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. I think probably the one that comes to mind is talking voice versus singing voice.
Yeah, that's a great candidate for that.
It's just like it kind of came out of nowhere. Like when it first came out, I listened kind of casually. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I picked back up on it like probably 6 months or so later. And then like I couldn't stop listening to it. To me, it's the best album with the worst artwork.
Oh, it's terrible artwork. Like, great title, great album, terrible artwork.
Right. It's like, what in the clip art hell is going on with this?
Sorry, Ryan Clark. Not my favorite of your work.
Usually do great work. But that would be one. As I was kind of like prepping for this, I was trying to think through, like, I have a really hard time like picking favorites of anything. Like, I just hate being like locked down. It's like, I don't know, like, what season is it?
We fully get it.
What am I going through at the time? Like, what's my mental state? Like, that's
we have to have a TJ on the show, even if it's not TJ, because he's our resident like hates list.
We make him do lists all the time, much to his chagrin.
Well, with Starflyer though, it was a little easier because there's so much to pull from, and turns out I have lots of opinions.
Oh, that's great.
That's why you're on the show,
right? So, My Island was another one that like I never like got into. But as like kind of listening down for this, I was like, oh, hey, you know what? Like this really wasn't so bad. Like for whatever reason, it just like it never clicked with me back when it came out. But as I was listening down, I was like, oh, hey, this one's pretty solid, actually. I like this one. And I Am the Portuguese Blues is always another outlier where it's like,
for sure.
I don't know. Like Wake Up Early, as I was listening to the first track, I was like, oh, this is kind of a jam, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I've ever gone back to that one, but talking voice versus singing voice for sure was one that's like it didn't click at first, but like I've definitely gone back to it.
Nice. Yeah. This is honestly just kind of hitting me right now that I'm like, wow, we could just spend this whole time literally just talking about Starflyer, and it's great. Like,
and it's
Josh,
great.
That's the premise of the show.
I know, and I'm like, we've been preparing for it and everything, but like now, like. As Jerry's talking about, like, oh yeah, My Island, I was like, wow, we could literally just talk about any of these. Like, we can just jump to anything. It's great.
Yeah. We really
this
can.
Is so fun. Nice. Well, before we get into a little bit more, I do want to know, kind of, Jerry, where is your home base in Starflyer? Because like Jason's gone through so many different eras and sounds and albums. Like, is there a couple kind of like a certain era, or like these couple records is like where you kind of like sit with as like your favorite Starflyer stuff?
Yeah, so so I kind of fall in the camp of people. I don't know. Maybe there's a camp. I assume there is. I lean more towards the later output. In my like Starflyer extended universe in my brain, I kind of break them out into like 3 eras. It could probably be 4, but for me, like functionally, like when I think of Starflyer, I just kind of think of 3 different eras, and it's like those first 3 albums kind of sit together, and then everything from Fashion Focus to My Island, I kind of all lump together. And for some reason, like Dial M for me was like
a new starting point.
Yeah, it was kind of another like starting point. Though I think you could make the argument that Changing of the Guard was maybe more so. But for some reason in my brain, like Dial M was like the start of a new era. I think you guys talked about it on that last on that Silver. Talking about Silver, where it was like he started singing different.
Yeah.
He started singing like lower.
Yeah, I think starting like with Old, and then it gets progressively deeper as well.
Yes, it gets progressively deeper, and I feel like it gets more pronounced like right around Dial M. So maybe that's why I separated out, but that's kind of where, but I kind of leaned more towards, I mean, we can get into that if we want. Like, I kind of my favorite albums, if we want to talk about that. I have a few, but like, I love that early shoegaze stuff for what it was, and it was obviously like kind of like very. I think like everybody, it's like you hear that and it was like sounded like nothing else out there. But for me, for my money, like he has just put out so many killer records.
Well, I love that that you are an OG fan that got in with Silver from back in the day, but some of your favorite stuff is more the later stuff that he's done. Like, because I know a lot of people. And no shade to them out there, but like if you got into Starflyer, like a lot of people love those first records and they're like, that's the best he's ever done. But it's like, it's cool that you're into that still, but the stuff that you really love and resonates with you is his later output, which I think just speaks to a great fandom for being like, I love your earlier stuff and I got in with that, but you really hit your stride in the late aughts or teens. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'd say, so I don't know if we want to jump into it, because I'd say my favorite album actually is Old.
Okay.
Which is me and a friend, like we were talking one night and Starflyer came up. I didn't realize, like, he's this guy that I met recently and we were hanging out and we were talking about Starflyer, and he's like, all right, he's like, somebody count down from 3. And he's like, okay, we're going to say our favorite Starflyer album at the same time. We want to see if we line up. And so the person was like 3, 2, 1, and he said Old, and I said Dial M. And then I was like, shit, no, maybe it's Old. Like I was like, you said Old, and I think I actually lean maybe towards Old because to me that is the best. Like, that is the best band that he ever had.
Oh, for sure.
Hands down. I mean, Frank Lenz, Richard Swift, Jeff Cloud on bass, and I think Aaron Sprinkle engineered that album. It sounds incredible. I think the songs are great. Like, there's so many good hooks, like even musical hooks. I was listening to New Wife, New Life today, and I just love that, like, guitar hook. Like, it's such a, like, to me, that's the hook of the song, and, like, it's in my brain all the time. And I just love that album, like... That was like, I remember there being a rumor on the road. This is really random. I just thought of this. But like somebody told us, I forget where we were, but like we're talking about that album and I was talking about Frank Lenz because his like presence is all over it with like the weird background vocals. But like he would brag about the fact that he could play Dark Side of the Moon on the drums from start to finish by memory. And I'm like, I fully believe that. I believe that brag. Like, I wouldn't even, but like to me, like that album kind of like has such a unique. It's just a good band album. Like most of it, like most albums are him, right? And it's like,
especially a lot of his later stuff, you can tell it's more just Jason and then Steve and Trey are bringing their parts to it. But yeah, that's definitely a full band effort.
Yeah, and so I think that's why that one stands out. So that's like, if I had to pick, I said Dial M first, but then I recanted and said Old. So and then
it just
probably Dial
there,
M.
You know?
Yeah,
nice.
Exactly.
Okay. 0308. All right, good, sweet. Well, that's great to hear. I love
so those would be 1 and 2. after that, it gets wishy-washy, man. Like, it depends. Like, it depends on the mood, and it depends on kind of what I'm in, like what I'm feeling. But I think Gold would be in there in my top 5. Oh man. I love Young in My Head. Like, that came out a few years ago,
I really like that album.
Immediately like launched into my like one of my favorites. Like, that I made a note here where I said this was his "Fuck This Shit, I'm Done" album. Where it's like, but that's kind of a mode that he's been into for like several years, where he's just like, I'm old, I'm tired of this. Like,
every album is his last album, and then he makes another one,
and then he makes another one that's amazing. But like, it culminated in this one, and it was like just a feeling that hit home with me. So I don't know, like, that one's really good. And then from there, it's like, man, I could be like swung in a million different directions.
Yeah, then it
like,
just depends, and there's so many to choose from. That's
right.
Great. All right, perfect. That places us to where you're kind of leaning your fandom. But like I said, I think that's great that you went and got in with the earlier stuff and love the later stuff. So thank you, Jerry. Kylan, I want to hear from you a little bit more.
What?
This will be fun.
What? What do you want from me? What do you want from me?
I want to hear the same thing, you know. Okay. Where do you land in your Starflyer? We talked about it a little bit on our Silver episode on Church Jams now.
That's true. But
I like saying on Church Jams now, like, we're not releasing it as part of the same podcast.
No, this is going under Church Jams
This is on the same feed. Yeah.
Well, okay, so I just keep cracking up listening to Jerry talk because, Josh, I can see in your eyes there's this twinkle, this sparkle of, like, this is what you want Church Jams to be. Like, if TJ and I ever knew what the hell we were talking about, like this is the show you need to be on, Josh. Like, you need someone like Jerry who shares the same knowledge pool. So, okay, I'm so scattershot with Starflyer.
Mm-hmm. There's only like 16 albums over almost 30 years. What's your excuse? Like,
well, okay, so I think I said on our Silver episode, you, like, a couple years ago, and I definitely threw TJ under the bus because I said you and I's friendship was so important. I knew this band was so big for you that I wanted to listen to it, but I didn't know where to start. And you suggested The Changing of the Guard, and I listened to that, loved it. Went back, I was on a road trip, I listened to, I listened to a couple albums. I'm super unfamiliar. I mean, it's a really big discography.
It's very big. Especially once you start bringing in his side projects too, Neon Horse and Bon Voyage and all that other stuff.
I will say I love the album Young in My Head. I listened to that all the way through.
That makes 3 of us on this show.
A few years ago. And I was like, oh, this is rad as hell. I guess, I don't know, maybe there's something to this Starflyer band.
This Jason Martin guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Yeah. So that's about where I'm at.
That's great. Well, like I said, I think it's really fun to have like a more newcomer to the show to
kind of throw your. But here's the thing, Josh, because our friendship is so important to me.
It's so important.
Obviously,
you're
TJ's not here, so this definitely proves that I value our friendship more than he does.
He didn't know how to start the Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. No, he doesn't have access to any of this. I want to learn more.
Well, I got great news. You're at the right place.
Okay, good.
Come to the right place.
Good. I'm here for it.
It's almost like an intervention, a little bit. I feel like
Kylan, we care about you.
We care about you.
We need you to learn more about more.
Okay, I need you guys to both read your letters on how
I've prepared something.
Your Starflyer ignorance is hurting people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. I do just want to say, talking about Young in My Head, I have a note here that I did want to mention on the podcast that my wife threw me a surprise birthday party for my 30th, and the theme was Young in My Head. And whenever I walked in, like the song was playing and everything.
That's great.
It was fun. So
That's
it's
really
a great
cool.
album. It's got some fun
So
memories
good.
attached to it as well.
Yeah.
So
I want to hear Josh's. I want to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know
let's
where
hear-
Josh is. I want to
Yeah,
hear where
that's
Josh
true.
is.
You're the host of this show.
I'm
What's
the
your
host
deal?
of this show.
So like, I need
wanna
to
just-
I'm a newcomer. I need to know.
All right. Well, I got into Starflyer a little bit later. Like I kind of always knew about them and kind of was aware of a few songs here and there. But it wasn't until I think it was in like 2013 whenever I finally like started dipping my toes into just like some random CDs that I'd bought. My thing is that I would go to Half Price Books and just find CDs for like $1 or something, and then that's what I would listen to. So I'd got like My Island and Old and whatnot, and that was enough for me to like start being like, oh, interesting. And I was honestly more familiar with Neon Horse. I got into Neon Horse in like 2007, and then when their second album came out in 2009, like I picked up Day Of. So I was already familiar with Jason's songwriting structure, and what I really appealed to me about it was how simple he made music seem, but still be compelling. Because like I came to music a little bit later, and I thought like keys were like you wrote songs with like 30 different chords, and I thought that whenever I approached music, it just seemed really complicated. But whenever I listened to Jason's music, specifically with Neon Horse, but then later with Starflyer, I was like, oh, this seems simple, but it's still interesting and compelling, and like he's like drawing me in, and it's not like, it doesn't feel like this, I don't know, this maze of numbers and keys and chords and inversions and stuff like that. And that is something I was trying to find a quote, because I think he said it like this, but how he approaches songs. And I think one of the reasons why they really appealed to me is because Jason talked about how he creates songs as more of a craftsman, not like an artist where it's like, I'm going to paint this canvas. He's like, I create songs like I know how to build a house. You put the foundation, you put the walls up. Like it's like he just knows the structure of it, and like so a lot of the songs kind of like follow the same structure, and it's not going to be like he's not going to have songs that are wildly different. Like, oh, this one is this totally different. Like it's all kind of the same, but that still allows him to be expressive and to make interesting things. And I definitely, that's how I feel as a songwriter and as someone who approaches music. I'm more of like a
Josh, this is wild. I've never heard this, but this makes so much sense.
Doesn't
now.
it? Yes.
Like why I need you on all of my creative projects, because I'm like chasing butterflies. And you're like, oh, that's nice.
You're like, I
Let's
did this
build a
awesome
house
painting.
for the butterflies.
I'm like, we need the wall for the painting first, Kylan. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I'm like, that painting is amazing.
No, that makes
it's
sense.
more interesting. It's a better painting than I could make, but we need a wall for it.
So I have a question for both of y'all. So as someone that is relatively unfamiliar with Starflyer, the closest analog that I've been able to find of someone that like I really connect to is Granddaddy. And so I'm curious if either of y'all are Granddaddy fans.
Very much so. Yep.
Hell yeah.
And they occupy very much the same space.
Yeah, it's like it's really similar of like it's kind of mostly one guy who at this point in their career seems a little bit over it, but just kind of still, you know, doing
pull himself away from it.
Yeah, but just like keeps doing it just fucking whenever.
Because they're so good at it too.
Yeah,
like, it's,
exactly.
It's almost effortless. And they both, like, to me, like kind of lean into that, like, I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, but that kind of blue collar, like,
right, yeah, yeah.
That's like well, Jason Martin's whole
this
thing.
Is my job.
Right?
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like this whole, like, they approach, even to hear you say, I don't know, I hadn't seen that before, but like that makes perfect sense that Jason Martin would be like, yeah, I approach this like a job, because he is like such a blue collar dude, right? Yeah. Like that's
it's
kind of
literally
like,
a truck driver.
Stephen King
exactly
does that too. Like that's kind of Stephen King's whole thing.
Yes.
And yeah, you can definitely see that blue collar work ethic of like, well, this is my job. I'm going to just like sit down for 8 hours.
Extremely prolific at it.
And this is it.
This is it. Yep. But yeah, Granddaddy lives in a very similar space for me musically. Like even as a songwriter, because I write music now, and it's like I can't help like that. I'm a lot like you, Josh, where it's like I kind of fall in that same thing where it's like I'm not a technical musician. I kind of feel things out a lot, and it's like I rely on lot of just similar structures, and I kind of know what works for me. I know what works for kind of the register where I sing, and like what keys work for me. And it's like I don't deviate from that too often. And it's like, you know, I try things here and there, but it's like I think it would be disingenuous to say that Jason was not a huge, both Jasons actually.
But
the Starflyer and Granddaddy. But like we're a huge influence on kind of that like kind of mentality for me of like like kind of keep it simple, but like how do we keep it simple but still make it interesting? So
yeah,
I love it.
That's great. I honestly don't know any Granddaddy, but I want to listen to.
All right. Well, Josh,
after
you're going to guest on my first Granddaddy podcast.
What are you calling it? I want the
Dial
name right
G
now.
for Granddaddy.
A real original. That's great. I think it'll be perfect. A sister show.
Yep.
That's great. Sweet. Well, I want to get to the topic at hand, but I'll just say some of my top albums from Starflyer. Like I said, I got into the later stuff, but all my top albums are like the earlier stuff. Like Leave Here Stranger is my number 1. I think Gold is number 2. And then I'd probably put Everybody Makes Mistakes as 3.
Oh, okay.
Fashion Focus or something like that. But
yeah, interesting.
Changing of the Guard is also up there too, of course. And then Young in My Head. So
Leave Here Stranger is probably it definitely would be up there on mine. I think I listened to that whole thing last night. I hadn't heard it in a long time. And I made the note of like, those are like melodically, that's his best album. Like from a vocal melody standpoint, like I love that album so much. I'm like, yeah, okay. I think I probably, if you were to put a gun to my head, that would be probably in my top 5. That's a great album.
That was the album that that really made me a Starflyer. Like before that, I was like, oh, I've been listening to a lot of his albums. I'm liking them. But then when I heard that one, that was like what made me like, yes, I'm fully a Starflyer fan. So it holds a very special place in my heart.
That
and
artwork is so good
record.
too. It's a great record. It sounds killer, and like even to me, the whole story behind it of like, you know, Gene Eugene had passed away, and he had worked on so much of their stuff, and like so this was like the first album that they were doing without him. So they went in a radically different direction, recording it in all mono, and the whole thing. Like it's just such a cool story, and that artwork is so rad. Like, it's like that's a great album, man. Like, really I'm glad that's up there. I'm glad that's one of your favorites.
Oh, yeah. My number 1.
Interesting.
Yeah. We'll have to get to that at a later date.
Hey, Jammers. We're talking about our favorite sponsor ever, CollideRecords.com.
And this episode, we're talking about one of my favorite bands, which is Starflyer 59. And, you know, there's some Starflyer stuff at Collide, but I also want to talk about one of my other favorite bands that Collide has in stock, which is another Southern California band called Thrice. And if you're a Thrice fan like myself, they've got plenty of vinyl and CDs in stock. I actually had my sister-in-law for my Christmas present this year. She was asking what to get me, and I was like, actually, I've never got the Artist in the Ambulance Revisited vinyl that they released last year. So that's what I asked for, and you know what? She got it from Collide Records for me, and it looks and sounds great.
Ayo.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Did she use our promo code?
She did, in fact. So it was kind of a double present to me, which was great.
That is. What is our promo code for people that don't know?
Oh, you looking at me?
I am.
I'll give it to the people. It's Church Jams now.
Ooh.
All one word.
So first step, use your fingers.
2, go to colliderecords.com.
For Thrice Records, quadruple your savings. Hold on. There's something here.
There's
something here.
Up,
but only 20%.
There's something here.
No, you can find it. Yeah, you got it.
There's something here. 1, use your fingers. 2, go to Collide Records.
Go to Collide Records.
There it is.
To get a Thrice record.
Get Thrice Records.
For all 4 of your friends.
Boom, there it is.
1 for each member of Thrice.
There it is.
Yeah.
All right, so once again, go to colliderecords.com and use our promo code ChurchJamsNow at checkout for 20% off your first purchase, which is super rad.
Once, twice, thrice a lady.
Let's get back to the show.
Well, so the thing that we're talking about today is opening tracks, and the great thing is this topic was brought to us by our guest Jerry. That you just came up with this idea on your own of like, you know what? And I have a quote
I think sorry.
Oh yeah.
To interrupt.
Go for it.
I don't know if Jerry's a guest at this point or if he's just going to be a co-host on Dial M for Martin.
We'll
because that is
out.
real co-host behavior.
That is.
I
Oh, by the way,
real,
I have this idea of what I want to.
Yeah, no, it was perfect. I loved it.
I was like, man, this seems like I'm maybe pushing some limits here. I was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw it out there.
We love it.
I was driving to West Virginia, and I was like, we were talking about doing this podcast. You'd reached out, and I was like, listening to their albums, and I'm like, that just jumped out at me. I was like, I'm just gonna suggest it. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, what was it? Tell us. Introduce.
Oh
it
no,
to
that was the
everyone.
thing. I had that idea, I'm gonna throw this idea of let's do first tracks. To me,
Yeah.
that's such a thing with Starflyer. So
Yeah. Well, and I pulled the quote that you said the hallmark of Starflyer albums are the first songs, and
yeah.
oftentimes and Kylan is a great person to have on this episode, of course, because he's well known on the show for being all about opening tracks and that they have to be a thesis statement for your record and really set the stage and the tone.
A good opening track lets you know what you're in for.
Yes, I agree. I have this whole thing. I've wanted to do a podcast for so long about a music podcast, but I always have this to me it's I would extend it out of the first 3 tracks. The first 3 tracks of an album should tell you the whole story of what you're going to get for the whole album. There's so many
that.
I've always wanted to rank the top 3. As a guy who doesn't like to rank things, I like to have other people rank things. You could do it, but it's top 3 three song openers in all of music, right? I don't know. I think of the Joshua Tree by U2, stuff like that. But anyway, I don't want to digress. But yeah.
No, it's very appropriate since whenever they did the Easy Come Easy Go box set in 2000, the greatest hits, Jason's I don't know, just put the first 3 songs on all the records on it. It seems like you guys are in the same boat there.
Sure. He was probably just I don't care, do what you want.
Yeah, I don't want to pick songs. Just
I don't want
the first 3, man.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's a very Jason move for sure.
Yeah, that dude is really funny. A personal anecdote, I got to meet Jason, we played a show with them, Bleach did, at the Chain Reaction in Anaheim, and to me that was really awesome, just kind of a full circle moment, but
right.
That dude is so he is exactly what you think he is, because he is some people it's they put on these fronts and it's they have their stage persona and they have their image that they have in photo shoots or whatever, and he is just I don't want to be bothered by any of this stuff, whatever, I'm just a dude, I'm a dude that's playing music, I'm here, I'll show up, and he was exactly that, and he was very kind, very nice. We actually borrowed all their equipment. It was really fun. But anyway, kind of a personal anecdote, but I imagine him tooth and nail being hey, we're going to put out this box set, and he's yeah, I don't care, whatever you want to do.
So I get that sense too, Josh, when we had Troy and John on the show.
John's story about
John Dunn told a story of Gap.
It was
wanted a music video from Starflyer because they liked this song or whatever.
Yeah.
And they just hired a bunch of actors.
Yeah.
Because Jason didn't want to do it. So then there's this whole swath of people that think that Jason Martin is this attractive 20-something.
Young, yes.
Yeah.
That was for the IWIN, I win, the song from My Island. Yeah, the video was all just a band.
That's so funny. I
love it
that.
so much.
Yeah.
So great. He's
cool, I'll take the money. Just hire people though. I don't want to do it.
Here's your video. I don't want to do this.
Most people would be I would love to get in the camera, get my face out there.
Right.
It's just get someone else.
Somebody better looking.
So funny to me. I love it.
It's great.
Yep. All right. So have we all prepared? I'm going to put us all on the spot here. Have we all prepared 3 of our top opening songs that we want to talk about?
I think so. So, Josh, I texted you last week.
You did?
And wait, what did I tell you exactly? I think I said I'm either going to over prepare or not prepare at all.
You're going to be, completely over-prepared or not prepared at all.
So I fall somewhere in the middle.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I might lean a little bit more towards over-prepared because I started a playlist on Spotify called My Definitive Ranking of Starflyer 59 opening tracks based on only one listen.
That's about as definitive as you can get.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I put all of the opening tracks into a playlist. I listened to them all a couple times. And there's only a couple of these albums that I've listened to all the way through. So this is like just based on the opening tracks. And I got my top 5 and I have my least favorite. And then the rest I just kind of threw in there. So,
I love that.
I am fully prepared to piss off all of the Starinos.
This is great. Oh, I love
all the stars out there.
I didn't think of a least favorite. I'm going to try to think of one because I think that's very well done. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Josh, I just wanted to let you know where I'm at with that. So
Well, I love that. Look, you're falling on the more prepared side.
I know, isn't that wild?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Everything
I knew you would come through.
Especially this year, like everything that's not a main feed regular Church Sheeps Now episode, I feel like I come way more prepared.
It's so true.
I don't know why. I'm sorry.
You're just ready you're just liking the offshoots, you know?
That's right. I'm
All
here
right.
for
Well, let's get into them. Do we have anyone that wants to volunteer to go first? I feel weird being like, I'll go first. This is
go
my
first,
show.
Josh.
I'll do this, but like,
or you could go first. Go
it's
first.
your
Josh.
show. It's your show.
Okay,
Come on.
All right.
You take
all right.
this.
All right. I'm going to go in order from my 1, 2, 3. I'm not going to go 3, 2, 1 if that's okay with everyone.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine.
All right. So we're talking about opening tracks here. This first one I'm going to pick, I think Jerry will like it because I'm picking Minor Keys.
Ooh.
Oh, nice.
First song off of Dial M.
That's your
And
number one favorite opening
That's your
track.
number one.
That's my number one favorite opener from Jason. I think it's one of Jason's best songs. And I am taking this a little bit more of just on the song as its own. Because I know we're talking about album openers and the role that they play on their respective records.
Right.
This is more just based on this is one of my favorite Jason songs, Starflyer songs, and just all the parts in it. I do think it has you get a little bit of the Starflyer encompassing historical line where he says for once or maybe twice I was in my prime. So you kind of do get the kind of look back on Starflyer and Jason feeling melancholic and pretty
and there's
classic traditional stuff.
Reference.
There's the Smiths reference, which I'm a sucker for. Johnny Marr, I want my please, please, please. But it starts with Steven's bass, which is great on this song. But the highlight of this song to me is that acoustic part at 2:15 where it's picked and it's the acoustic part that's during the chorus, but then everything drops out and it just has that going in. I love that moment so much.
Good.
And there's a little flute kind of sound or something. There's some strings going on, but that part, man.
Wonderful.
If that doesn't make your day, I don't know what will. So this is I said, it's maybe not a best example for this is really sets the stage for this album. It probably does, but I'm just picking this as my favorite opening song.
Okay, Josh, I cannot wait any longer. This is why we're best friends. This was my number one too.
Hey,
isn't that wild?
Man.
That feels wild to me because I feel like you're such a big Starflyer fan, and I'm coming in completely blind. But of the however many songs that I listened to, this was the one that I was like, oh yeah, this is my favorite song of all these.
It made my list too.
All right.
List too. I don't want to spoiler. I'll talk more about it. But yeah,
good.
That's
great.
so cool.
I love that pick
already. Nice,
Yeah.
Kylan. So just for all the same reasons or for anything else that you want to mention?
No, it was just rad. It was a cool vibe.
It's so rad, dude. Yeah. It ticks all the boxes. Smith's reference.
Well,
Great
and
bass,
this is
sweet
perfect
guitar.
since the name of this sub show is
Oh,
Dial M
that's
for
so
Martin.
true.
You know,
So kinda had to start
it feels
here, yeah.
appropriate. All right, Jerry, what was your number one?
So okay, I can't. I didn't rank them.
Wow, typical non-list guy.
I know, non-list guy. So I picked my favorite from each era.
All right,
And
cool.
so-
I love that.
And so I'll go ahead and like, so I'll say this was my favorite from this era. So like from the Dial M to current, I would say, I love, for a lot of the same reasons, I love that bass as a bass player. I love that it starts off with
so
that bass
good.
lick.
It's some sweet,
so
sweet
good.
bass.
Sweet bass, like just popping in right there. That melody, like that line, you mentioned it, that for once or maybe twice I was in my prime, like that is in my head all the time. Like maybe it's because it's like I'm old now and it's like things are so much better when I was young. But like, yeah, for all, I mean, a lot of the same reasons. I was never a huge Smiths guy, but like I love that he like just references the Smiths. Just like I think that's, I like when artists reference other artists in their songs. I think that's kind of a cool thing.
I'd have to think, but I don't think he really does that a ton. Like there's not a ton of those moments where he does that. So it's fun to be like, hey, Jason making a more obvious reference.
Yeah.
I love it. So yeah, this was my pick for this, like the modern deep voice era of Starflyer.
Yeah. All right, sweet. So I love that that's a great setup, Jerry, that you introduce, like you're like, I think there are 3 eras of Starflyer, and then later you brought it back and you're like, and I'm going to pick my favorite from each one.
Yeah, that was intentional.
You set that up very well. So
Thank you.
very good job. It's like you know how to like set up payoffs and stuff like that, because you do stand up, which we haven't even talked about yet, but we'll get to it a little bit later, probably.
We'll get there.
Sweet. Okay. Well then, I'll go again if that's okay. I'll just keep this train rolling. All right. My second pick is All My Friends Who Play Guitar. And
good one.
I kind of alluded to this. Kylan's smiling. I wonder if we're going to have some similar setups here. So this one, I feel like I'm adhering more to this as an opening statement for the record, and like especially for Leave Here a Stranger, like just the title alone, but then like welcoming you into this land that like is on the album cover, like, and we're in mono now, and everything is like quiet, because Jason, going into this record, wanted to make a record that didn't have any, like hardly any like distortion on it and any loud parts. Like he wanted to do stuff that he dabbled in before, but like, let's do a whole album in this style. And just like that opening sound, I don't even know what it is. I could have looked it up, because I think Wayne or someone has talked about, or Wayne wasn't on that record, Josh Dooley maybe, or something like that. But just like, that's just a piano, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's just a piano, but it's got some like weird, it's like filtered or something.
It's like a room mic or something. Just yeah.
But just how it starts out, and then just how that guitar, like it's obviously very 60s inspired from Pet Sounds, but gosh, it just hits, and it's so chill and relaxing. And then like the song itself, I love the lyrics. As well, of this never thought we'd make it this far. Like obviously Jason's starting to get a little more self-referential on this record and like this is an album, I guess, talking more about the music industry and maybe feeling tired of making albums this is where he kind of starts in that, and then has continued that trend. So this one is my answer, obviously, for more of like as an album opener, but like I said before, this is my favorite Starflyer album, so of course this is going to rank extremely high for me. So
it sets a great tone.
Is my pick, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sets such a good tone for this album. I love it.
Yes.
Like I just want to sit here. and soak this song in.
Just listen to it.
And I love that this song is like 5 minutes long, because I love long songs, especially for opening songs. Like I think you can be a little more indulgent. Like we're setting the stage, we're going through some paces some themes that you might see on the rest of the record. So it's fun to go over time for that. So today I was like, he has a lot of long songs for his openers. Is there a trend that this is the opening song on albums is like the longest song? And then I like went through all his albums, and it's like not even the case on like any of them really. Like he always has whatever the opening track is, there's a longer one later on the record. But so I was quickly shot down by that, but I do like how long this one is.
So good.
So
Kylan, do you have something you would like to share?
Yeah. I think this also speaks, Josh, to maybe not why we're best friends, but why we're such good creative collaborators. This was my least favorite.
Really?
I know. I'm fully prepared to piss off the Starinos or
Me,
whatever.
specifically me.
Yeah. No, I know.
Okay, what didn't you like about it?
Of all of the opening tracks that I listened to, one, well, I don't love long songs. There is something I can't fully explain it, but there's something about the fly around on a plane lyrical turn that he uses a lot that doesn't work for me. And so like my instinct is to say that it's kind of lazy, but I know he's not a lazy songwriter. So I don't
would
know.
say he's maybe a lazy lyricist.
So
I would say I'm definitely a lazy
I'm fine
lyricist.
with that argument. Yeah.
So
I would accept that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to reconcile that exactly. It just didn't connect with me, and it kind of bugged me a little bit, which was hard because like I haven't listened to this whole record, but I know this is like a big record. Like I know it's an important one and one I should listen to. This song, like, so I tried to make my list too based on, because there is a lot of sameness, right, throughout his entire discography. There's like,
For sure.
there's a real through line of like, okay, this is all going to sound kind of the same with like some variations. And it was mostly the plane thing just bugged
Just that lyric.
it bugged the shit out of me, man. Yeah, no, I couldn't do it. I was like, you could spend like 5 more minutes figuring out another way to say that. So I'm sorry, everybody.
Wow. It's okay. I like the tensions. You gotta have some
exactly.
conflict. Yeah, to make a good show.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I love that. That's why he was smiling earlier. Like,
oh
you were
yeah,
like,
I thought we were going to be 2 for 2 here,
Page.
and
Yeah,
then it was
like,
no,
he's like, no, I
completely the
fucking hate
opposite.
this song.
No, it feels like a real TJ move. So my number 2, also, so once again, I'm coming in so blind. I have no idea how these opinions match up with, the fandom. I don't know if I'm going to piss people off or if people are going to be like, yeah, that makes sense. My number 2 is Automatic from Ghosts of the Past.
Okay, so you're doing like some extended stuff here.
This intro is so good.
That is I love that bass.
Yeah, this is totally a bass song.
Yeah.
Well, this is my moment to come in here and correct you, Kylan.
Okay,
for being
please.
No. Well,
Please.
do you know the story of Ghosts from the Past?
I don't
or
know
whatever?
anything. I know
Yeah, this
I
is
know
wonderful.
nothing.
Yeah.
Once again, this is my definitive list of favorite opening tracks based on only one listen.
You're right. Okay. Well, so the story, if I may explain a little bit, and Jerry, feel free to jump in if I am wrong in any part. But whenever he was getting ready to make Dial M, they were making Ghosts of the Future, where he would record demos with like a B-side for the record. And
Yes.
then they made a vinyl box set of a bunch of 7 inches, and they released it as Ghosts of the Future. And then he made Dial M, and then they made the Ghosts of the Past CD or the compilation box set that had all the songs from the Ghosts from the Future with some like B-sides and stuff like that. So Automatic is a song that is on Dial M. So it did first appear on Ghosts from the Past, but like technically it's not the opener for Dial M because that's minor keys. So it is on there. So I didn't know if we were doing like, and I was like, I only stuck to like proper releases, but I was like, obviously we could talk about EPs and stuff like that. But yeah, so
I love that though.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll just an anecdote there. Like, so the Ghost of the Future stuff, and then with the Ghost of the Past, that it was like roughly around My Island, kind of after that. Like, I checked out a little bit. Like, it was like, man, this is a lot. Like, there's just a lot happening. Like, so like, but it was funny. Like when Dial M actually came out, it was like, oh, that kind of brought me back around. Like, like as hearing it as a full album, but I was like, I can't do I can't do the box set. Like, it's too much content. Like, I'm overloaded.
You don't like listening to stuff on a 7-inch where you listen to something for 3 minutes and you have to get up and turn it over again?
Well, like there was a lot going on. Like I think at that point, like I had just moved to Texas from Nashville, and like there was a lot going on in my life, and it was like I don't have time for this bullshit. So like that's too much. Like I'll check back in with
Put it on a CD. Let me know when you put it on a CD, Jason.
When you put out a CD, I will check it out, and I did. And it ended up being one of my favorite
and
albums.
now it's one of your favorites. Yeah.
But like I don't have time for this shit right now. So like, come on. So anyway,
nice.
Okay, no, that's
of,
great. That's a great song. Like I'm a huge fan of that.
So
song
what did you love
cool.
about it? Like you said, the bass, obviously. Bass is great.
Yeah, it's just
It's a groove.
Yeah, it's super vibey. I like. I don't know. I don't have much more to say, Josh. Come on.
It's a killer key part.
Yeah, and it does have the strings in it, which are a sample from one of the songs on Talking Voice. I can't remember which one it is.
Oh,
but those are strings are sampled from one of those songs.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Nice. All right, Kylan. Cool. I'll be curious to hear. You'll have to listen to the Dial M version of it and let me know which one you prefer between the two as well.
I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Jerry. What do you got?
Well, since I didn't rank them, I'm just going to work backwards. So we did.
Perfect.
So my phase 3, which I refer to as the deep voice phase, we'll move into phase 2, which I call like. So that was like their pop. Like I feel like it was his pop, but like there was kind of like this rock and roll phase in there. I had a hard time with this phase because there was this was like there's a ton of albums.
There's a lot of albums,
and like. I was tempted to go with I Drive a Lot because that was such a departure from Americana to that. And like when I first heard that, it was like, whoa, like, is this even the same band? Like but I loved it though.
Yeah.
And my hot take is like, that's actually the best song on that album. Like I don't love the rest of that album. I think that album is
interesting.
Like I don't love the whole album. Like it's okay. I don't go back to that one very often, but I love I Drive a Lot. But I did not go with I Drive a Lot for my for that phase. I went with Underneath from my favorite album.
Oh, from your favorite one.
Yeah, that riff is so good, and
it really is.
And like when it switches into that kind of like syncopated beat, like Frank Lenz is just he's just a
So
beast.
good.
Like this whole, like that guitar lick in the verse, like before it kicks into that verse is like, again, like there's so many guitar licks that are like hooks, right? And to me, like I referenced this earlier, but like this album is such a band album, and like I love at the end of the song where it like Frank Lenz straightens out that beat again. And like Jason Martin just goes into like he just starts like ripping this solo like that's the thing I think I love the most about this band. If I were to distill it down to one thing, is like there's the simplicity of the song structure, but like Jason Martin is a fantastic guitar player. He can just like rip at any point and you don't expect it. And this song is like such a great, I think it's such a great example of that. Like he like when that beat straightens out, like right before that kind of last outro chorus, and he's just like riffing and like playing this solo, and Richard Swift is doing some cool key stuff. Like I don't know, like to me that is like the ultimate in that era. Like they got into some like this era like had some of that rock and roll throwback kind of stuff. Like.
For sure.
That was like Portuguese blues stuff, and what was that other band that Jason Martin had with? It was the singer from Jupiter James. Yeah, Emergency. Like it was that whole like.
Ships. I've heard both, but
I've heard either way. Heard it both ways. Yeah, like I didn't love a lot of that. I'm like, okay, like it's very much a product of its time, but like I actually love this album. Like it to me was like, I don't know, production, songwriting. The sound of it sounds so good. So I was tempted here to go with I Am a CEO as well. I'd like as like an honorable mention. I'd like to like shout that out because to me, I Am a CEO and Old, they're kind of like they occupy the same space. So like in my like extended universe in my brain, like so like those album covers, like you have like the old album cover of the guy standing at the door, and then like the old guy on the album cover of I Am a CEO.
Yeah.
To me, that's the same guy. And these albums, like they for some reason like just go together to me in my head.
Yeah.
They're also
and I was like
10 years apart. They're doing like a Radiohead in Rainbows, and
Yes.
what was it, where they're like linked or something.
yeah, they're somehow linked. Like they feel linked in my head, but I love I Am a CEO. I was tempted to go like that was like probably my number 2, 2A after. But like if I were to pick one from this phase, it would be Underneath, man. You can't beat that one. You can't beat Old.
You like the Just When You Realize high vocals at the end, which are so different for any
It's
Starflyer
so different.
song,
So
but it's pretty fun.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it when I first heard it. I was like, "What the hell?" Like
the strong taste. Yeah.
it is this very like I'm pretty sure that's Frank Lynn's. It has to be Frank Lynn's.
Yeah.
Like to me, it just feels like because he's such a weirdo. Like to me, like he just has this like I could just see like him being the one like, hey, let's do this really high, like really weird, like vocal part. Like I have this in my head, and it's like, all right, yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
I actually do really like it a lot now. Like it, and there's a like on that part, there's also this like key part that Richard Swift does, like R.I.P. like Richard Swift. Like again, like I cannot stress enough like how much like this was the best band that Jason Martin ever had. Like so good. Like. But there's like a little key part that he does that like kind of like after that, I don't know, perfection, man, like chef's kiss, like over and over. Like I could go back to this album. So, yep. So that's my number 2 pick.
That's a great pick, Jerry. Sweet. I love that we were also like going backwards through the catalog and through the phases to bring us to the first 3 records. That's super fun. Cool. Everyone did their second one, right?
Yeah.
So it's just me.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Cool.
That's
All
cool.
right, all right. Yeah, you brought up a good point, Jerry, with talking about I Drive a lot, because I think you can make an argument and a case for like most important songs, and this is not that. This is just our favorites. But like I think if you were talking about most important openers, you would definitely have Blue Collar Love. You would have I Drive a Lot. You would have, because like big moments in Starflyer where they just like signal a change. Like everyone loves to talk about how I Drive a Lot, like how that changed like the game in Starflyer, which it definitely
100.
did. Yeah, for sure. But like,
This is all so fascinating to me because I have no context. For
so many
any
people
of
out there
this.
would say these things, and you're like, there's that many people
Oh,
that
wow.
would say that?
No, that's cool.
People are saying this. What?
That's cool to know.
Yep. No, there's a lot. People go hard in the paint when it comes to this. So I just want to say that you can make an argument for those, but this is just my personal favorites list. It's not me being like, this is the most important, the 3 most important opening songs on there. I do think this one could kind of fall into that though, because I'm going to pick a Housewife love song.
Yes.
That
So
one,
good.
Gold is, I mean, you're setting a trend here. Gold is my number 2 Starflyer record.
Yeah.
So like
It's
I
a
picked my
sad
number
sack
1 and my
album.
number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just like, obviously Blue Collar Love gets a lot of praise, as it should. But this one just starts off so mean and nasty, and it's just so good. And the opening, like bow down, now, and then it just all hits.
Well, I love that it's Blue Collar Love, like kind of turned upside down. It's the same riff, but like just turned upside down a little bit.
Oh yeah.
It's an interesting, like it's essentially the same, but like flips it on its head a little bit.
Yeah,
I
instead of
love
like,
that.
is it on Blue Collar Love, do you go down? But then he's like, oh, this one I'll go up.
I'm gonna go up. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
for sure.
So it's like the second part of it. So I got to put it on there. I also want to talk about the music video for it, Kyle. This will be fun for you to learn some more
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
Because he made a music video for this song. This is, I believe, the only one that Jason appears in of the 3 or 4 Starflyer music videos that are out there. The fun thing is, so it's a housewife love song, and they hired, so Jason appears in it as the husband, and the housewife is this singer, or this her name is Julie, and she plays his housewife in the music video, and they're she's going around the house preparing food and whatnot. And he's just kind of sitting there, and there's like obviously
She's like
some narrative.
shaving him at one point.
Yeah, and he's like he's just watching TV, like not even like acknowledging or just like whatever. The fun fact about this though is that I think this is where they met, but they actually got married. And
That's his wife,
so
yeah.
that's his wife now, and that's who like he started Bon Voyage with. So that's Julie singing songs that Jason would write. But yeah, I love that. Like
that's cool.
this song about a housewife love song is where he met his wife for the music
really
video.
cool.
So
And there's a bunch of rats crawling around on him.
there are
in that
rats
video.
at the end when he's like wrapped in cellophane, and
A love
there's
story
rats.
for the ages.
like meeting your wife with a bunch of rats.
With a bunch of rats, yeah.
Yeah. It was like, and I love the idea of like, hey, we're going to be playing a couple, but this is like not working. Like you're over this. You want to leave in this music video. But then as the product of that, she's like, oh, I actually kind of like this guy.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
funny.
hey, if you can handle a bunch of rats, then you're probably going to make it.
Yep.
I love this video. Like when it came out, like I love this pick because it's like I love that album so much. Like it was like I said, it's his sad sack album, and I remember at that, like I think I was in 10th grade in high school, and I was just like insufferable, like just
You were
in
feeling
my
the mess.
feels all the time. I was feeling the mess, but like I also wanted to be Jason Martin so bad, like so bad. So I would like study this video, and like he had the big sideburns, and I was so sad because I couldn't grow facial hair until I was like 28. But like I would like he was wearing like this sweater, and like I was like, oh, I need to find a sweater like that because I want to look like Jason Martin. I want to be like I have like on that, like there's a funny, like a friend of mine had a video from, he had gone to Cornerstone 95, I think, and he had a video of Starflyer playing. And Jason Martin was wearing a Hawaiian shirt in the video, like for the show, and I was like, "Oh, Jason Martin is wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Like I'm going to start wearing Hawaiian shirts all the time." So I became a Hawaiian shirt guy for a brief period in 10th grade.
I mean, this was in my 20s, but I do own a members only jacket because of that photo shoot with Jason, Wayne, and Cloud all wearing members only jackets. Like,
you guys
and it looks great.
So funny. Yo,
Fucking nerds, man.
I
Gosh.
love both of y'all so much.
Yeah. It gets worse. I had a Starflyer cover band called Duel. As in dual overhead cam.
Dual overhead cam, yeah.
Yeah. It was just me and my buddy Jeremy. We would just sit in our bedroom and play Starflyer songs. We never really played a show, but like that was the plan.
That's
Anyway,
so rad. I
love
that.
I love man, gold is a it's a good one, man.
Oh, yeah. Nice. All right. Well, that's mine. Kylan, what do you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, what have you bought to look like Jason Martin? You haven't got there yet. You'll get there.
I don't know. I like smoked cigarettes and didn't give a fuck for years. I don't know.
That's right up his alley. Yeah.
It's right
That's the
in.
Jason Martin mantra right there.
Yeah.
You're doing it right.
All right. Yeah. I'm just like, I don't know, man. I literally wear the same outfit every day. So like, I feel like vibe wise, I think I'm on the same page.
You're kind of there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point he wears jeans and black t-shirts all the time, which
Oh yeah. Well, there you go.
we're still there.
Okay. So my last one. So once again, as a complete like Starflyer neophyte, this is really fun for me to see where my picks kind of land. Because once again, I have zero context, right, for any of this. My number 3 favorite opening track was I Drive a Lot.
Oh, nice.
Which I guess is important, according to
one of the most important.
to what Josh said.
Yes.
Yeah.
What stood out to you about it? What do you like about it?
I don't know. It was fun. It was different. It was pretty poppy, but not in an obnoxious way.
Yeah, that keyboard lick is so catchy, man.
Yeah. And he was okay. So especially as I was going through chronologically, so we talked about this on the Silver episode of like, it felt like maybe he added all these effects to his voice because he wasn't as confident in his voice.
Yes.
And this was the first time that like the vocal stuck out to me of like, okay, like at this point, I think he's figured out like, oh, I can sing songs.
Yeah.
And it really comes through. I think it's great. It's so good.
I love it. Yeah, there's a vocal confidence there. That's like, I remember that being shocking. The vocals are very present where they typically weren't beforehand.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I love it.
It has to be, especially going into like, hey, we're going to take away a lot of this big distorted wall of sound guitars. Like, so my voice isn't gonna have much to hide behind. So I have to be okay with that. And he was by that point.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
I love how high he's singing. Like he's singing like it's before he kind of dropped down to that like baritone kind of thing. Like it was such a shock. It was a shock as someone who had who'd been like a fan since Silver, like, and kind of like I loved Gold, and like to hear and Americana was so good. Like, yeah, this was a shock. Like this was so completely different, but like it's so important in that.
That's cool.
sense.
I had an important.
You
pick.
had no context, right? Like,
no
you had an
context.
important
I'm
pick.
just like, yeah, okay, this is cool.
Great. I love it.
Yeah, no. Ever since we did our Silver episode, because TJ's only heard Silver, and I was like, we should have like on the recording like played one of the more recent songs, so he could be like, oh, this is how Jason sounds now. Like,
This
whoa.
is the same guy.
Yeah, same guy, same band.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So funny.
All
right, Jerry.
What do
Okay,
you got?
so like we're down to phase one. So that's the
It's only three records to choose from. Yeah.
Only 3 records to choose from, and I feel like this actually might be a little bit of a controversial pick, but I'm going to go with The Voyager as my favorite from this era. This album to me is like, I love this album so much, and at any given moment, it could be in my top 5. To me, this era, like, I don't think it's not as good of a band era as Old, but this is that Plugged era where it was like Wayne and Eric from the Prayer Chain, and they were kind of a band. Though you could tell like Eric kind of just didn't care.
Yeah. And well, and Gene's also starting to be, he's still a producer, but he's contributing more too.
Gene's contributing a little more. But like I love like, so Unplugged, like Plugged was such a cool thing like to me because like you have Jason starting to like, y'all talked about this on that Silver episode where it was like the Blue Collar Love version of Unplugged is like so cool because like Jason is just like he's so comfortable with that song at this point and is just like ripping like that whole solo part where he is just like just goes off. Like he just goes ham on the guitar. And like you have Wayne speaking French through the whole thing, like
as he does.
But like a lot of those fills that Wayne is doing, like were just so cool Unplugged. And like that carries over into Americana. Like this was a little bit of a nostalgic pick too, because this came out my senior year of high school. And like I was so excited for it, and I had gone to see Starflyer with Eric and Wayne in Columbus right before this album came out. And this like the opening guitar riff is like I was like starting to like write songs, and I was playing guitar a lot, and I remember just spending so much time trying to learn that opening lick. Right, like it's just so like there's like a swagger to it.
There's so much swagger on this one.
So much swagger on this whole album that is like that. I'm like I feel like they tried to kind of capture a little bit again with Portuguese Blues, but it wasn't the same, in my opinion. Like I know those were songs that were kind of written around the same time, but like they did the right thing by releasing Americana as it was. It was like just the swagger, but it was still that kind of shoegazy, like wall of sound.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like that whole era, like of just like Jason is just like trying to be like a guitar god. You can tell he's kind of leaning into it a little bit. He's like kind of digging it. And he's like pulling off these like I'm just trying to think of all the songs from that album. Like there was like The Boulevard, which was like super cool. Like The Voyager, like that opening track. Like I don't know, man. Like to me, like that, like it's, you still have that wall of sound, that kind of noise that like you love from, and I'll be honest, like I was like on the fence between this one and Housewife Love Song, because Gold, like for me, is like personally, like there's just a lot of like feels wrapped up in that album. Like, but I remember this album too. Like I was telling my partner the other day, like I was a senior in high school and I was doing this play for high school, and I had drama for my first period of high school, and we didn't do anything in that class. And we were doing the play Grease, and so like I would sneak out on the stage during the first period of drama class. It was an hour and a half long, and I would get, like, there was a bedroom scene, and there was this bed that they had on the stage, and I would just go lay in the bed and put my headphones on and like listen to this album on repeat for an hour and a half. While I just
literally feels like a scene from a movie. Like I need to see this on screen.
This was like, so like I have a lot of like, I don't know, like this album to me is just like, you know how like music has a way of just putting you back in like a specific place in your life. And I was just like, I just have so many memories of like just laying there in this like fake bedroom on this stage in my high school, and just like laying there and just like allowing myself to be completely like enveloped by this album. This album doesn't make my top 5, but it probably should. I don't know, man. Like this opening track is just like, that riff just like kills me every time. Like
it's good.
I remember learning, like just trying to learn it on guitar, and like I wanted to be Jason Martin so bad. So yeah, I've rambled on enough, but like, yeah,
I love it.
Controversial pick, but so that's good. That's my pick.
The
Voyager.
I mean, between the three of the Silver, Gold, and Americana, Voyager would be my second pick.
So, yeah. After Housewife Love Song.
After Housewife, but yeah, for sure. So that one's just so good too. Nice. Well, that has been our top 3. I do want to say I have an honorable mention that I do just want to say that I want to mention Slow, because title track off of Slow and first song and a long song. Kylan does not like it because it's 5 minutes long and very slow.
That was almost my least favorite.
Bro, you don't like I get it, but like Jason talking about his whole life. And like we talked about his lyrics on the first record of how they're like kind of throwaway a lot of the times, but on this one he's still just saying things simply. But my life goes by so fast. I want it slow, so slow. My kids, they grow up fast. I want it slow. Like he's just like looking back on his life, and like, man, that just like, that one is a big gut punch for me. Which I
have a kid that just turned 18, and it's like, that one like. That one hits.
It hits.
I think you have to be a longtime Starflyer fan to really appreciate that song.
That would make sense. Yeah.
I think so.
You'll get there.
I'll say this as a new Starflyer fan, it did not hit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fine. So Kylan mentioned his least favorite. Jerry, do you have a least favorite?
Oh man. So I've been trying to think kind of as like a little bit as we've been talking through this, like through all the albums. I think if I had to pick a least favorite, my gut is to go with My Island, just because I haven't really gone to that album too much. But like that opening song is what, The Frontman?
The Frontman.
I just don't have a lot of
that's my number 4. That's my first honorable mention. That almost made my list.
But it's a good song. Like, so I'm like,
but I get it. Yeah.
I'm tempted to just say that one because it's like an album that I don't go to a lot. Like, but it's a good song. As I've been listening down for this podcast, I was like, that song's actually pretty good. So like, if I had to pick my least favorite, man, like I can't. Like, it's hard. I would say probably Wake Up Early from Portuguese Blues.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, if I had to pick one, just because I'm not super into that, like kind of like rock and roll, kind of like, I don't know, like that. There was that whole era of like the bands, Like all the bands started with and it was like that kind of rock and roll throwback. And I felt like Jason was kind of like leaning into that a little bit and trying to do his like throwback rock and roll thing. And it was like, okay, it's still a great song. I don't mind it, but if I had to pick a least favorite, that'd probably be mine.
That's fair.
Yeah, I feel bad even saying that.
Wake up early like a birdie, you know. Great lyrics.
Yeah. The lyrics are really rough.
That's
rough
like
on
the
that
Ride
album.
on Planes, Kylan, for you.
Yeah.
How about you? Do you have a least
places.
favorite? Do you have a least favorite, Josh?
I might. I don't really want to mention it. The Frontman is lower for me.
Yeah.
I have it as my second to least favorite. I still really do like it. If I'm being honest, I don't want to make anyone mad. I might put Blue Collar Love as number one. Just because.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I feel bad for it. Because I know
that
what
was
it
low
means
for
and
me,
represents.
but specifically too because you showed me that unplugged
That's the thing. The plugged version is great.
The plugged version is
If
superior.
the plugged version was
so
an
good.
album opener, that would be way high up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it just pales in
Yeah.
comparison.
Can I mention like a couple other ones that stood out to me and see how y'all feel as
For sure.
like longtime Starflyer fans? She's the Queen
Okay.
was a big one for me. Play the C chord was a big one for me.
Love Play the C chord.
That's a great song.
Hey, are you listening? Was
That's a great one.
definitely a big one. Definitely a housewife love song was a big one. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is like I put all these in a playlist and I generally enjoyed all of them, right?
I didn't know if you were going to Chaos Goblin us and pick Asunder as one of like your top three.
So
I thought about it because it's under 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, hell
And
yeah.
it kind of feels like a movie score, or like an opening scene to a movie. So,
Right. No, but that it was pretty low for me.
okay.
when I made my list, I actually included. So I made a playlist as well, like, and did all of the like album openers in a playlist. But I did Asunder and Life in Bed as like one
As like
track.
a twofer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a twofer because
It kind of
it's not-
intros into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
yeah. And I'll be honest, like that album, this new one, Vanity, I haven't sat with a ton. Probably more so in the last week than I have. I love Life in Bed as an opener. Like it's like I think it's pretty solid, but I don't even know if I considered that album as I was thinking through like favorites, like just because it's like I haven't sat with it enough.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I need some more time with it.
yeah.
That makes sense. Sweet. Well, these are all some great lists, guys. I had a lot of fun talking about this.
Yeah.
I could obviously go and just talk on some more, but I think we'll have to wrap it up and save it for another episode.
Yeah, Jerry,
Someday,
we're
sure.
totally going to have you back.
Well, of course, anytime. Like I would freaking love it. I could
Anytime
talk.
you're
I
ready
could
to-
literally talk. I could talk Starflyer like for hours. I could talk. I was more excited to talk Starflyer than I would have been about Bleach, to be honest. So like,
You know, the band that you played in for multiple years.
Yeah,
No big deal. Yeah. Whatever.
I don't know, man.
Yep.
That's half
Sweet.
joke.
Yeah, half a joke. Well, we'll anytime you're ready to dial M for some more, just let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's the other co-host, so we'll definitely have you back whenever we do this again.
Please.
Exactly.
I'm down.
Sweet. So, Jared, do you have anything that you want to plug or promote while you're here? You know.
Oh, for sure. I do play in a band that's not Bleach. I have a band called Baseball Bat, and I play guitar and I sing half the time. So, like, we have another guy that we trade off lead vocals. We just released a single called Let Down. You can find us on Spotify if you search Baseball Bat, Let Down. We're about to release a 7-song EP that we recorded last fall. Super proud of it. It's really cool. I did some songwriting. It's not super Starflyer. It's not. It's kind of a slacker rock kind of Bleach. People that know me from Bleach, I think, would find things that they would like about Baseball Bat.
Nice.
Cool.
So that's fun. And I can, So you can find us on, like I said, on Spotify, or if you go to Bandcamp, it's like baseballbat.bandcamp.com. We have our singles up there, and we'll have our EP up there. We should be putting that out probably in the next month or so.
Hell yeah.
And then I do stand up comedy, which is a fun thing that I've kind of picked up in the past year. You can find some of my stuff that I do on Instagram, which is my it's just my name at Jerry Morrison, JerryMorrison. So
Jerry, I also
I'm just realizing we didn't talk about this at all.
I know. So I did stand up for like 7 years, and
right on.
I would love to just have a completely separate conversation about stand up with you.
I've been doing it since last year, and it has been especially here in Nashville.
It's so addictive.
It is so addictive. It is like, for me, like being a musician for years and like touring and playing music, you get used to like getting up on a stage and like having people love what you do.
Right.
Like, that's so narcissistic sounding, but like there is a level of like you like kind of do. And so like for me, stand-up comedy has been a way to like kind of channel that energy that I've missed of like, not a narcissistic way, but it's like, and it's creative.
Yeah.
It's creative.
And
yes.
I have this whole theory about, because I also went from like playing music to doing stand up of like you get a little bit of that same rush, but there's something about the immediacy of stand up as an art form, and the immediacy of the connection between the artist and the audience that it is not present in any other art form.
No,
like
it's
you
not.
know immediately whether something you're doing is good or not, and it's fascinating to me.
It is totally fascinating.
Oh, dude,
it's fun. Like, I love it.
It's great. It's great.
So much fun. Anyway, I would love anytime. Hit me up, please.
Okay, all right.
Happy to talk about it. It's a wonderful. So anyway, like, yes, I do stand up comedy.
And are you still in Nashville, Jerry?
I am in Nashville.
Cool. Yeah, if you're in Nashville.
But if you're in Nashville, come check me out. Or like if you're not in Nashville and you want to book a comedian, like hit me up on Instagram at Jerry Morrison. Like, I would love to come perform at your whatever. So
Jerry, yeah, okay, yes. I oh my God. All I want to do is talk to you about stand up now.
You're bringing Kylan back to stand up.
Yeah.
I love this. Like, Josh, you and I can connect on Starflyer.
I know.
And then we can connect on stand up. Okay, I'll give it back to you.
Sweet. Well, I just want to thank you once again, Jerry, for coming on and just for nerding about some Starflyer with me specifically, but with us. So it's super fun.
Oh, this was great.
Yeah. Who doesn't love talking about Starflyer?
I literally could talk about Starflyer for
the whole
hours.
time I had to like keep thinking like, there's a rabbit trail that I would love to go down, but it's especially on like the first episode, you want to just like talk about everything. But I feel like we'll get structured. We'll figure things out along the way.
Like, I have so many. I'm looking at my notes here, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't even go into that. I didn't even go into that.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Well, thank you for joining us for this first. Potentially of more. We'll see. I love it. But yeah, I was trying to figure out if a sign off or something like that. I was like, maybe there's like a no new kind of story thing, but that would be like a good intro. Like, welcome to Dial M for Martin. This ain't no new kind of story, but that's like an opening, not an
That's
outro.
an opening, not a closer.
So I'll have to think about something like that. But
I don't know. I drive a lot. The end.
We drive a lot.
I drive a lot. I'm about to go. About to go get my car.
Yeah. Until then, hope you're not feeling the mess or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yep.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Messed
This is
up
work in
in
progress.
This conversation was gold.
Deliver
the
the
end.
Cam, Yep. Peace out, Starheads.
Peace out, Starheads.
Take care.